Well, we're live now. How's it going, gentlemen? Not like you can answer. Well, you can in the chat. I think we must be waiting for the space to start. Yeah, I'm doing it the old-fashioned way on my phone. Hello, Lemonade. I got to say, like in my head, I go, Lemonade. Only crypto? Good evening to you, Alex Knob. Good morning to you. Yeah, let's go, man. It's getting lit, isn't it? Okay, now we're live. We're getting live. Let me know if the audio's funky. Like Kong taught me today that my mic is like actually on the sides of this thing, not here where I thought it was. That's so helpful to know those things. Good evening.
What's up, Banana?
Another day cracking at all the crypto stuff we have to do.
Yeah.
How about you? What's up with you?
Nothing. Just actually at my father-in-law's house right now. Had to come over here for some dinner thing that we're doing a little bit later, and so I had us drive a little bit early just because I didn't want to be in the car while we were doing our spaces, because my kids can like start crying at any moment.
Yes, I remember.
Which worked out because now my wife just gets to hang out with her dad a little bit longer, and my son gets to hang out with him. So it's like killing birds with one stone.
Yeah, that's perfect, man. I'm sure your dad enjoys that. Was it, no, her dad, right?
Her dad, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So do we need to be mindful of the time then?
Yeah, there will be a time where I have to kind of call it, but I think I should have an hour for sure to go.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We'll try to keep that on the radar. Well, there are lots of people in YouTube already. There's Only Crypto, Lemonade, Rolando, Dosteezy. Yeah, that's and me. I'm in there too, man. I'm counting myself. And on Twitter, there's about a dozen. We had a really good turnout on Saturday. I think we had, I don't know, 130, 100, something like that on X. I logged it in because it was such a good turnout.
Yeah, there's some good conversations going on. It was cool that Rackham hopped in, added to the conversation. And I think we went for a good chunk of time too. At least 2 hours.
2 hours plus, yeah. Yeah, it was good. Yeah. Man, it has been so long since I've seen pTGC do a good old, pTGC pump. It reminds me of the hex pumps back in the day. Remember those?
Yeah. Yeah, I think even what we're talking about right now with these little move ups, like that's just very little movement up of the blockchain, right? That's mainly from just ETH having some good weeks.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited for Pulse to really make its move and what that equals for pTGC. If Pulse really starts to make some moves, some value is going to have to be flowing over that bridge. It could either make its way to pTGC UFO or make its way to anything in our web, and we should get some good price appreciation and value generation off of that. This stuff that we're seeing right now, I feel like it's just like a little glimpse of what is going to be in the future, just, in the future, hopefully multiplied. Kind of giving people a warning, possibly.
Yes, like a warning, like a get on board warning.
Yeah, a last call, kind of.
Yeah, there was a gal in one of the groups I'm in, and she's like, I finally got myself a bag. I'm like, good. And I've been telling people this in a couple different chats that I believe we're early, and I can say that with a straight face without blushing. I sincerely believe we're early to this thing. Like myself, everybody that's getting in right now. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you can say it straight faced, say the same thing without blushing and all that. Am I wrong?
Yeah, I think obviously because we're built on a blockchain that's at its bottoms, right?
Mm-hmm.
Pretty close to its bottoms, gives our machine a very unique opportunity where, of course, it is up, right? Our holders, if they've been involved, let's say you, for an example, who's been here for almost a year and a half now, or roughly a year and a half.
Yes.
Is up, right? So we have users who are up, and you have to say like, oh yeah, some people are up, but you're also still very early, right? Even with Bitcoin, 2 years in, there was people that were up, right? There was people that were mining free Bitcoin in the first year, buying Bitcoin for very cheap, etc. But they're still early, right? If we actually believe PulseChain is going to be successful as far as an entire chain, I think people getting involved with pTGC right now are very, very early. And then they could utilize what that early means to however it fits them best, right? Or separate your portfolio, right? You could utilize the system for the X's right now because it has the possibility to do an extreme amount of X's, or you could utilize it as getting into what could be like the next real sustainable store value system on chain, just locking in a position of that for very, very cheap, right? And then when it gets to that next level, you could possibly be storing value in the system already. You don't need to take in value from the outside world and bring it in. You were able to actually ride it up, just like the people that got into Bitcoin early. They now hold the asset, and a lot of it that some of the largest companies and governments are bringing in millions of dollars to get their hands on, right? And the people who found out about and took the risk early and actually held on to it, they don't need to make that jump because they already got it. I personally believe pTGC and UFO are going to do something similar to that, to where in the future, large amounts of value are flowing into PulseChain to store value in this specific product. Well, if you just capitalize early and take a little bit of a risk on this blockchain, you won't have to chase it later on because you're just locking in cheap positions now.
Yeah. Yeah. But my thing is like, if you can't get anything else at this point, if you can't just make it a goal to at least get 1 million of these tokens. That's my thing. I'm like, if you could just get 1 million. I mean, there was a time when having 1 million hex was a thing back at the top of the last cycle. It's like, if you had 1 million, wow, man, it was an achievement.
Right. That's a good point to bring up. When things start rocking and rolling, it can become very, very difficult to get a decent chunk of the supply very quickly.
Absolutely,
right?
very quickly.
With the X multiplier, with PulseChain being successful, just a 10x on PulseChain, right? Which is like the all-time highs of PulseChain, which aren't high at all. That's like when it first launched, the first few days, those are like the all-time highs. But with it just going back there, and let's say we have a 10x multiplier on pTGC, to get the same amount of pTGC that you could today in that event, let's say you finally make the move at that point because you're seeing the machine running higher, or then you actually do believe this could be the next big store of value or one of the next big stores of value, well, it's going to cost you 100 times the amount of value to get that same amount of pTGC. And that's, I think one reason I've spent a lot of time doing these VCs and you've spent a lot of time doing these spaces, because it is a unique opportunity to be on PulseChain before the masses come. But very, very easily, you can just be sitting here on a sinking ship and not know, right? And all the value that you had on this chain early could be wasted being in the wrong boat. But if you are in the right boat, or at least a portion of your value in the right boats, I think, a lot of the cores are this as well. It doesn't have to be pTGC. But I have wanted to put a lot of effort in educating people on the system, just so if they do want to take a portion of their portfolio, big or small, in before the revalue of PulseChain, to me, it's a big deal, right? Because I do want people that have been here in the trenches, grinding, waiting out these 4 years, to not have to try to store value in it later, especially if they've been here the whole entire time.
Right.
I think they deserve a cheap position of this asset.
Yes. So, Yeah, one of the reasons that idea was sparked for me about just getting, if that's all you can get exposure to is $1 million, just get $1 million, was our conversation a few weeks ago.
What is that right now? That $500?
$500. It's like close to $600. I mean, just a few weeks ago it was $300 for $1 million. Now it's almost 600. But where my head is going with pTGC, and everybody's dream is, if I could just be a millionaire, just one, I'm like, what, really? Is one going to do it? You better pencil this out. Like literally put pencil to paper and write your life out and figure out how many millions you need, because I'm sure it's more than one. And I think that pTGC, in my opinion, has the ability to deliver multiples. I'm not saying it's going to, but I think it could. So like in my mind, I mean, a million would be a minimum. 1 million tokens.
Yeah. Yeah, I think with the successful PulseChain and with us just doing what we've done in the past, that's the nice thing. Since we have 2 years of track record to go off of, we can kind of even just look at that and just say, like, if we just do what we've done in the past, nothing more, probably could even do a little bit less. With the successful PulseChain, technically pTGC can start to do some ridiculous numbers. I opened the VC for a little bit this morning and was just kind of running through some of the numbers that I've been going through. And to be honest, I think a lot of people don't even believe they're going to happen, right? Because the numbers, if we just move up evenly and PulseChain is remotely successful and our volume increases in an even fashion with the price of PulseChain, if PulseChain is successful, pTGC turns into a monster to where, like you said, just having 1 million tokens might be able to drastically change your life. Well, does it become enough to like make it to where you never need to worry about anything ever again? Maybe not. This all depends on really the success of PulseChain as a whole and our own success. There's a whole lot of different ranges of success. But I definitely think either way, it's got a great opportunity to benefit your life in either way, right? By a little or a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, I believe that.
The numbers, Prairie, just to put them out there, right? If you have 1 million and it goes to 10 cents, it's $100,000.
Mm-hmm.
You just have 1 million tokens. The previous all-time high was only a 6x away from 1 cent. So those numbers really, truly are, they're not flamboyant by any means. And you could buy a bag for what, $500 you said for 1 million tokens?
Yeah, about $580. I mean, we got things sitting around the house. We got things that we don't use that are laying around the house that are worth way more than $580. Most of us.
Yeah, the nice thing is it's all, it's so heavily connected to PulseChain, and I feel pretty confident in these levels, especially with PulseChain being so low, because it's directly correlated via liquidity with PulseChain.
Yeah, but the thing is, though, Zen, too, is that look at what's happened. Bottomed out, sat there for 9 weeks, 10 weeks. Nobody else wanted to sell. And look where we're at now, right? So as people come into PulseChain just to purchase pTGC, and the price of PulseChain and the assets that we're kind of bonded with are just kind of here, it just makes that X multiplier that much more powerful. I mean, think about it. The X multiplier is twice as powerful as it was 3 weeks ago. You're sitting at a market cap of what? What is it right now?
130, something like that.
What's pTGC right now?
On Dex Screener, it's 160.
Okay, well, we were just at 70 million not a couple weeks ago, right?
Yeah.
And PulseChain's basically at the same price. So what does that mean? That means that we're at more than double the market cap, but the underlying assets, when they move, now they got to move that market cap up for pTGC that much more. And that's how fast the price can move away from potential investors.
Only crypto.
Yeah, it can move away very quickly. I was even looking at when we've crossed these prices before in the past, like last run. And I was comparing what was PulseChain's price the last time we were at these levels. And what I was finding was, the first time we passed this price, PulseChain was like 3 times this amount, right? So let's just imagine where our price would be if PulseChain just went back to where it was the first time we crossed these prices. Well, we'd be far past all-time highs. So what that tells me is even though you don't really see it on the chart right now, you can kind of see it on the price against PLS chart, but we've made a lot of progress since the last time we were here against PulseChain. And when PulseChain does come in, more than it has, I think that will start to show.
Well, I think that the right term is the tipping point, right? The system hit another tipping point. This one was a little harder to actually
break through,
to actually kind of premeditate that it was happening. But the system just ran out of large sellers. And when the system runs out of anybody who wants to capitulate out of their bag, but you have people that are now being, coming in that want the tokens, and you just have a little bit of an uptick, well, look at what happens, right? So the system did hit another tipping point where, we're just generating income. The income is going into the asset. It's removing the supply. There's no more sellers. What has to happen is what we've always said. When you have limited supply, high demand, a system that generates millions of dollars worth of PulseChain and revenue, and it all has to go back into the system, what has to happen? You keep creating a higher floor. This is what we've been witnessing. This is the math and the mechanics that we've been witnessing. We're witnessing it again, right? It's just phenomenal, man.
Yeah, I feel like it's very easily correlated with value when value just starts flowing into risk on assets, right? You could literally mark right when ETH started moving up. You can see pTGC moving up and UFO moving up at that exact time, but just in an amplified way. And because that's literally value flowing on chain, and that value is coming onto PulseChain, a portion of it. And we've actually been able to see that when value starts flowing into PulseChain, a good portion of it, considering how many products actually exist on PulseChain, a very good amount of that portion of value makes its way to pTGC and UFO. And it doesn't even need to make its way directly to pTGC and UFO. If it makes its way to anything in our web, our value actually increases by that. So you can actually look at the pTGC web, and when value flows into PulseChain, we automatically go up X's from it flowing into PulseChain because we're bonded with PulseChain. It then makes its way either to pTGC UFO, or let's say either any of the assets in our web. And even when it makes its way not to pTGC or UFO, if it makes its way to Most or Hex or PulseX or PDI, right? Don't really matter. It's increasing the value of pTGC.
Yeah, man, people still don't know what's happening,
Yeah.
Yeah, one thing that I've been really paying attention to, I was talking to someone about this earlier, is the idea of how I explain the alpha pool. How our biggest, right now we have a liquidity web, and in the next 6 months there is going to be a best performing asset in our liquidity. We don't currently know what that is, but when that asset does come, that's going to most likely turn into our alpha pool. It'll become our strongest liquidity pair, our biggest liquidity pair, most likely generating us the most revenue. But we also have to remember other assets on chain have this liquidity web, especially because we've somewhat created it. Even think about Hex. Hex has its own liquidity web, and we are an asset within that liquidity web. And now think about this. If pTGC keeps moving up harder than everything else, we naturally will become Hex's alpha pool. We will keep increasing faster than the other pools that are connected to Hex. A good example is Pulse, right? Let's just pretend in this example there was Pulse and there was PTGC. Currently, let's say the Pulse pool is bigger than PTGC's. But if in this next year we do a massive amount of X's against Pulse, our liquidity pool could actually start to become larger for Hex itself than its PulseChain pool, which then would make PTGC the alpha pool, which would then force even more value to rotate through our system as time goes on, making us larger and larger.
Yeah, and that's interesting when you think about that. When you talk about you say a lot, if PulseChain is successful, right? And there's that, it's an important caveat, just to have that there.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that this taps into what you're saying, right? Because what we're seeing is that regardless of the movement of PulseChain currently, PTGC is phenomenally successful. And if it continues to move in this trajectory, right, you are going to create a situation where it does become an alpha asset on the chain in the pools. Like, imagine, this is just a hypothetical, but just imagine that your Pulse stayed here for a while, like, even still, but you had people seeing what PTGC is, and you have people coming from other blockchains coming in. The value keeps getting pushed up. The system keeps doing what it's doing, pushing everything up, right? Well, how does it not? Let's say it went to $1 billion market cap, right? With PulseChain still down here. Those pools are going to turn. The weight of those pools are going to get a lot larger, man.
Yeah, especially, if we're moving up against the market heavier, right? And that would naturally increase the liquidity that asset, again, like the example I was giving with Hex. Right now, Hex's best pool is with PLS, right? It's $2.5 million. I need to look at what PTGCs and UFO is. Let's say if you add up PTGC and UFO, it adds up to 1.5 million. I don't even know if that's right. I'll have to look into it. But just with PTGC outperforming Pulse, let's say by a 10x, very easily our liquidity could actually be outmatching its main pair with PLS. And then you have to start asking yourself, well, what does that do for Hex? Well, if we keep outperforming, we actually start dragging Hex up because Hex has a liquidity web just like we do. And we know what happens via studying PTGC. When Hex in our liquidity moves up, it actually appreciates the price of PTGC. So we're actually starting to become large enough to where as our asset gets larger and grows, we can actually start dragging up some of the other main assets on chain, like Most, like PulseX, like Hex, because we actually have that much sustainability, because we have that much value generation. We can actually help these other assets succeed, utilizing the sustainability of our system.
That's nuts.
I do think as time goes on, PTGC is going to become a very, very valuable tool to PulseChain because it's exclusive here on PulseChain. It's connected with all the tickers that matter on chain, and it's got this unique formula to it that's super sustainable and can keep it moving in the upwards direction. And we're paired with the RH tickers, which will make those have the scenario where they're helped to go in the right direction, if all this makes sense. And then you ask yourself, like, if PulseChain successful, PTGC turns into the machine we believe it is, if it becomes this new style store of value that becomes very exclusive and a lot of people want to store value in it, well, they're going to have to come to PulseChain to get it. So if they have to come to PulseChain to get it, well, first they have to get PLS. They have to change their ETH, their Solana, their BNB for PLS. So automatically they're increasing the price of PLS. They're taking PLS off the market. Well, then they're transferring that to PTGC. So they're increasing the X's on PTGC, of course, but PTGC is connected to all these other assets that we see value as blue chips on chain. So then PTGC actually will start to drag up all the other assets that people love on chain, like Most, like Hex, like PulseX, And then also, if a portion of that value goes to PulseX or Hex, PulseX or Hex are going to help us move up. We're going to be working as a team, moving in the right direction. When value starts flowing on chain, we don't see this right now because value hasn't been flowing on chain. But every time you see little amounts of value flow onto this blockchain, you can actually see the assets that we're bonded with working with us to get us all to higher levels. And I don't know of a blockchain where anything like this has been done, where a group of very solid tokens are actually working together to move them all into higher levels.
What do you think about that, Prairie?
And another thing is, really anyone could then, sorry, Banana, if anyone wants to be a part of that, they can. They just have to buy pTGC and pair their asset with it, or buy it and hold it. There's a cost to enter.
No, yeah, I like the sound of going to higher levels. Absolutely. And being an asset for the chain. You know, I've been seeing some negative stuff about pTGC. You know, people are just misunderstanding some things about it. And like, I invited one gentleman just come into the spaces. And one guy made a negative comment about a certain aspect of pTGC. I think it was the DAO or something. I was on Twitter, and I'm like, explain how you understand it. And of course, they didn't answer. You know, but I see some negative stuff around, not very often. And there's going to be, you know, if you're doing anything beneficial, there are going to be detractors. There are going to be people that talk about you negatively. So we can actually confirm that we're doing something positive by the negative talk that's happening. But again, I don't think it's a lot. But, you know.
Yeah, I agree. I don't even like to point out what people are saying bad things, because usually they're saying bad things because they have a different product in mind for them.
Yes.
But the honest truth is, people are going to be very, very moody and negative if they aren't holding pTGC in this bull market.
Oh,
they're
yeah,
going to be
yeah.
very
Yes. Yeah, but the point of it is, I mean,
you're like literally begging people, like, hey, dude, we don't need you guys like crying about it. Like, just grab a bag and come along for the ride. You can take profits along the way, so on and so forth. Don't jeet it too early, because we're just going to keep moving on without you. And it sucks when you guys sell too early and make profits and then just become this negative Nancy about us moving forward. Like, I'm telling you what the math does, and it doesn't care if you're in it or not. We want you in it because anyone in the system is helping make the system work even stronger. But if you're not in it, the code's going to do it on its own, right? It takes a little bit longer, but it just sucks when they come back and they're kind of bummed about it. And then they have to say, you know, oh, I don't like this aspect. And it's like, okay, that's fine. But obviously it's working just fine how it's designed, right? Like, I get that you might not like a specific part of it, but look at how well it's working with how it's designed. So it's kind of hard to complain about any of it, to be honest.
Right, but the longer we're around, and the more RH asset tokens that we burn, and the more LP that we have with those tokens, the more credibility we stand to gain, I would imagine.
We're getting so big that if they are fudding pTGC, it's sucking down the price of their products.
Run that by me again.
We are getting so large, our LPs are getting so large. If they're fudding pTGC and price goes down, it starts dragging down all of their products as well.
True point.
The best thing, if we're bonded with their asset, they should want us to move up, because we're going to drag up their asset with us, using probably a different formula that they're using to go up. Like, a lot of other things that are going up are fun memes and narratives and stuff like that. But our movement up is coming from like a value generation source, sustainability, the formula that we've been talking about. It's
also coming from a lot of new investors coming in.
New investors, because they want to
tell you, over the last 3 weeks, there's been a lot of new people coming in.
But they want to hold it because of the things I just listed.
Correct. 15,346 holders. We've added 346 holders in Not a lot of time.
Yeah. Right on.
If anyone has any questions, these spaces are for the community to add to the conversation or just bring up any questions. There was someone that was asking a question in our chat right before this, and I told him to put it in your chat, Banana, kind of just because I wanted to make sure he was here listening, if he was or not, because I was open to answering his question on the spaces. But if you haven't seen it yet, he most likely isn't listening.
Yeah, I haven't.
Hey guys, I got something I want to bring up.
What's up?
I've
Thorn.
been watching all this old money, stock market money, Wall Street money moving into ETH, and someone had mentioned this saying that got my attention. They said that they're just going to own ETH. They're going to like centralize it. We can't control. We couldn't control it. We didn't care, but now that we care, we have the money to flow it in. And I've been thinking about that a lot. That maybe at one point ETH will be somewhat it won't be decentralized anymore because there'll be too many big whales that have too much stake in it. And it kind of makes PulseChain stand out as the truly decentralized place. Just an idea that I've been floating through my head. I want to bounce it off other people.
Are you saying you don't think Bitcoin is this, or are you saying ETH is kind of that's
I think ETH is going that direction. Bitcoin, yeah. Bitcoin only had one coin and one network, where Ethereum has thousands of coins. And I think this is the time where Wall Street old money is moving into Ethereum and buying big bags, maybe in a way that they'll quasi control it one day. That's how I feel. So that's how I'm speculating this idea that the centralized freedom nature is being lost with all this billions of dollars moving in.
Well, I think they're willing to sell it to these guys, right? Like I think a lot of that value is moving in to Ethereum, and it moved into Bitcoin because it was proven to be a great store of value, right? Like it's outperforming a lot of stocks. It's somewhat safe. It's been running for a very long time, and people now have like the trust factor to it that they actually can store value in it and feel it's safe there. So I think very large amounts of value is flowing into it because it's been proven to be a great store of value. And I think now ETH is going to get that rotation as well because Bitcoin's kind of paved that way, and then they see a discount there, right? They're like, wow, we've seen that this has worked out for all these people who took value from stocks and moved it here. Well, this is the next opportunity. And very easily, just like I kind of think happened with Bitcoin, is a lot of the people who were in Bitcoin early kind of sold their Bitcoin to these large companies, to where now the large companies, governments, etc., have a very large amount of the supply. And Ethereum will probably go the same direction as time goes on. Large players have lots of money, and if there's better products out there for them to store value in, I think they're going to take a very large ownership of it over time. It's kind of what I was talking about with pTGC. Is what it is today is not what it's going to be 5 years from now, 10 years from now. What Ethereum is today isn't what it was when it first came out. People weren't necessarily storing hundreds of millions of dollars in ETH the first year it came out. People weren't storing hundreds of million dollars in Bitcoin the first year it came out, first 2 years it came out. They were speculating on it, and then it did X's, and some kept those X's and some cashed out those X's. But now what it's evolved into is a true store of value. I believe it's going to be very similar with pTGC, with a successful PulseChain. What we have today is not what it's going to be 10 years from now. Right now, we can speculate in it and then ride it up X's. And then once you ride it up X's, if PulseChain's successful, right, is then you can make the decision, do I want to sell my bags to these large players who are willing to store millions of dollars in this product due to its sustainability? Or do I want to be a part of the club, and do I want to use this as store of value as well? Because I already got the bag.
Yeah, I think too, like when you talk about Blackhorn, like decentralization, right? I mean, the main thing is that the network can't get attacked. And, you'd have to have a 51% attack of the network. So you'd have to. It would cost a lot of money. So I guess the question is, what does it mean to be decentralized? Like, a lot of people will say that PulseChain's not decentralized because the OA owns a lion's share of the coins, right? Is it true that it's not decentralized because one entity owns a certain amount of the coins, or not? I think, to me, like, the way that the network operates in a decentralized way, right? And on Ethereum, it's damn near going to be impossible, the way that Liquidity works and everything, to do a brute force attack on Ethereum. You'd have to acquire over 51% of the network, right? So,
of course, yeah.
That is.
I'm just thinking about the decentralized nature of what, the gold bug, the person who doesn't trust big institutions. How, if Ethereum ceases to be that, we're going to stand out, because Base and Arbitrum and Sol they're not decentralized; they're super centralized.
Yeah, those are definitely super centralized. Like, for example, like, when it's like what Richard said, like, when the first rollback of the chain happened with ETH, and then Gavin Woods had that massive hack happen to him, and the Ethereum Foundation would no longer roll back the chain. That's when Richard said Ethereum's never being rolled back. Like, it's just crossed the tipping point, right? That's really the only thing that matters, is that, moving forward, that can't happen. And I just don't see that type of stuff happening. But I do get what you're saying,
though. We do have a couple questions on YouTube. Crypto Dave asked, what metrics for pTGC or UFO have surpassed expectations? Like all of them?
Absolutely everything. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, a lot of the simulations that I created in the early days had a portion of the idea with PulseChain at higher levels than it is today, especially at this point in time. So that's one thing that I definitely got incorrect. But what I feel like we hypothesized on and exceeded on is the strength of the pTGC machine on its own, right? Because what it's been operating to date off of, it hasn't been with any X multiplier of the blockchain. Currently, the blockchain is at lower levels than when pTGC launched and then when UFO launched. So technically, just like a current pushing against us constantly. And they've both been able to sustain and work very, very well, even in this unfavorable environment. So that's what I'm very impressed on. It's bought out tons of people who have sold early. It's already changed a bunch of people's lives, and it's still sitting at a very high market cap. And I think it will buy out tons of more people in the future, which is great, right? Because that means people are taking profits and changing their life in real life, but in a sustainable manner, because the code can actually buy these people out of their position and then keep the environment sustainable for the future generation that comes, or the current holders that actually want to see this thing through a little further or a lot further as well. So just overall, I think it's been running amazingly. I personally did think PulseChain was going to be at higher levels at this point. So what I've been running my calculations off of now is taking in the data that we've had from the last 2 years and what the average prices of PulseChain has been, and seeing what this machine can do at these levels, and then actually expanding those levels out evenly with the success of PulseChain, right? And these were metrics I didn't know I was even going to be able to have, because I thought PulseChain was going to be further along. But since I don't have those, or since we do have time, the exact same price, and we can actually look at the data. A big data point I look at is what's the 6-month average price of PulseChain, and then what's our 6-month volume, daily volume, and what's our value generation in the last 6 months. Between pTGC and UFO in the last 6 months has generated roughly $5 million. Okay, if you expand that out 1 year, that's roughly $10 million of value generation. PulseChain's price, the average 6-month price, has been 4035 pretty much. So if you just multiply that by 10, you're pretty much putting yourself at like the all-time highs of Pulse. And then what we could actually do is say, okay, well, if Pulse moves up 10x, our liquidity will move up 10x. Well, currently right now, our liquidity web is worth 20 million. Well, that would put our liquidity web at 200 million. And this is without us doing any X's over the blockchain. Most likely we're going to do a bunch of X's over the blockchain because that's what we've done in the past. These are very conservative numbers. If our liquidity is at 200 million, well, now market makers will need to move a lot more money. We'll have a lot more organic volume because value will be on chain. So let's just multiply our value generation by 10x because market makers need to move 10x of money. Well, now instead of generating $10 million in a year, we're at $100 million a year. And that's 100% going back to the ecosystem. Buy and burns, LP ads, APY. And that's only a 10x. What happens if PulseChain does 100x from these levels? This is a 35x SAC price. I think a lot of people think PulseChain could do a 35x SAC price, even though it does feel somewhat far at these times, where PulseChain has been in the last 2 years. It feels difficult, but it's really not difficult. It's actually very easy to do. If you think PulseChain is a legitimate blockchain, you look at all the other legitimate blockchains that exist, they've done hundreds to thousands of X's. So what we're talking about is just 35x. Well, that's 100x. Well, where does that put the value generation then? Well, that's now not $100 million. That would be $1 billion of value generation if the volume moved up evenly with the price of PulseChain, which is a good chance because liquidity would be moving up evenly. So that's the cool thing that I think is, it's not so much like what has done so much better than I expected. The cool thing is we have 2 years of data to actually look at now and make educated hypotheses of the future, to where when I first started talking about this idea, it was uncharted waters. We've never seen anything like it before. We had no data to go off. We had to speculate on that lack of information, but just knowing what the code was designed to do. Well, actually, we have a 2-year track record to make educated decisions on for our future now, which is a big deal, right? Because when price starts moving up, it actually gives users the ability to really think through what they're going to do with their position if it's up 10, 20, 50, 100x. Especially for large players, right? Like if a large player knows what this machine does and they've seen what it does, and if everything starts moving up evenly, they might be sitting on a lot of value, but really they might say, well, I could obviously take tons of profits and so on and so forth, which, take a little bit of profits. But if the machine is designed to do what it does, those big players will be getting paid a really nice APY in a hyper deflationary asset that's scarce, where the APY is 100% backed by real value. And then they only, pay taxes on what they are taking out, and what they're holding in the asset, they are technically possibly storing it in the best store of value asset that already exists. They just were lucky enough to find the Bitcoin 2.0 early.
Freaking love it.
And that's the cool thing about Bitcoin already being around. Think how many people sold Bitcoin way too early because they didn't have enough data to go off of, or there wasn't a cryptocurrency out before it that did it. We have all this data to work off now. We know that people sold their Bitcoin way too early. So we can actually look at all that stuff if we actually believe this is a Bitcoin 2.0, if we believe PulseChain is going to be successful, if we believe in the math behind the protocol, if we're comfortable with receiving an APY for just storing our value in this system long term. We have a lot of data to make educated decisions off of. And I think people who, obviously we're talking about earlier, who get out too early with too much, I hope people keep moving bags and create a locking ladder with a portion of their bag. It won't hurt, but if it is what we think it is, a very small amount could turn into a lot, and you don't have to be negative about selling too early then, because you can let that little amount change your life.
Yeah, what this also does, though, too, is it creates a demand. It creates massive demand. At some point, the demand we see now, it will be much larger, in the future. And so when you have demand on a product as phenomenal as this, if everything keeps going the way that it's going, any large replacement not only will have massive amounts of new buyers come in, but anybody who did take profits at what they thought was a top, they will re-enter at what they perceive to be a bottom with a good amount of capital. Because why wouldn't you re-enter an asset like a Bitcoin at what you perceive to be a bottom for the next cycle? So it just constantly keeps building on the momentum of itself. And then the DAO itself acts as this constant perpetual whale that's just ever buying and never selling.
Yeah,
I love how you called it Bitcoin 2.0.
Yeah, I mean, it has a lot of the same things that gives Bitcoin value. The scarcity side of it, money math. If PulseChain's successful, it will probably have some of the most on-chain liquidity that exists in all cryptocurrencies. Right now we have 20 million in liquidity at these levels. If PulseChain just does 100x, that's 2 billion in liquidity between pTGC and UFO. Name another asset on-chain that has 2 billion in liquidity. I don't know one. And that's just 100x. That's just 35x. So it has demand. The demand is literally written within the code. It doesn't even need a user to push the demand. So a lot of the things that give Bitcoin value, we've just amplified with the code. There's a caveat to that, right? The caveat, I think the biggest caveat is we are on a blockchain that's undervalued, that some people see as being risky. But there was also risky in the early days of Bitcoin too. Adoption never came, so on and so forth. So that's where I see the biggest risk, but also that's where the biggest reward is.
Oh boy.
That's how all this is possible.
Let's be real though, man. It's a global blockchain that's not, you can't shut it down. It's just like Ethereum and Bitcoin in that way. PulseChain is no joke. It is a real, bona fide, legitimate global blockchain. You can't shut the thing down. It's just like anything else. And it's backed by massive resources. And it's just time. It's just time. We're at the very beginning stages of crypto.
And I agree, right? Then that means it's just time for pTGC as well. And that's the cool part. And we know what time does to pTGC because every single day we see the supply just decreasing and decreasing and the LP increasing and increasing. So
well, here, my point, like practically wise, just practically speaking, is imagine the amount of new users globally. Imagine the amount of new human beings that will learn about crypto over the next 5 to 10 years. And the percentage of those people that are just like us, that are on this space, that will be interested in learning about an EVM or whatever. And some of them will come over to PulseChain. There's only so many that are going to be at certain, market caps. And it's just like, it's kind of like what Blockhead was talking about, the decentralized nature of what Richard's built, as opposed to like centralized things. There's always a large group of people that, they're kind of like the gold bugs, they're kind of like those type of people. So I'm just saying that the natural outworking of the market from here over the next 10 years is going to be that there's going to be a whole nother massive influx of new users that are interested about learning about DeFi. Obviously, some of those people will come to PulseChain. It's happening every month.
I agree. I think that's why, PulseChain is one of the best places for this asset to be built, besides a lot of the other reasons. But the decentralized nature of it makes a decentralized asset so powerful on it. Something that can never be turned off as long as the blockchain isn't turned off. And the math just keeps going infinitely as long as this blockchain exists.
Yeah, and the fact that Richard got the kind of clarity for the software called PulseChain and PulseX and Hex that he got, dude, that is just phenomenal.
I agree.
Rolando says, what he likes best about PulseChain is that pTGC is on it. That's true, man.
Isn't that a beautiful thing? That's a great comment, man.
And that just puts it very plainly, very simply. Yes, exactly, Rolando.
What a compliment to Richard Hart.
Yeah.
I mean, building things that you know, I mean, the bottom line is, man, is that Richard made pTGC possible by building what he built.
Yeah.
By giving us that core suite of assets, and the way that they're deflationary designed, and the regulatory clarity and just everything about it. It's just awesome, man.
John Wimbledon wants to know, he says, can you talk about the ratio between PulseChain and ETH, and how it affects the price of PulseChain when ETH goes up?
Yeah, I can give you my thoughts. Zen, I know I talked about this the other day. If you want to spearhead it.
Yeah. So everything is just connected in LPs, which is just ratios, right? And in the example of ETH to PulseChain, as ETH goes up, it's going to increase the value of PulseChain in that specific pair. But you have to remember, PulseChain also has pairs with stable coins, which aren't going to increase. So arbitrage bots will have to fix those liquidity pairs and create an equal PLS price across all pairs. That's what they're designed to do. That's literally what we turn into value within our system, right? But this happens not only in our system, this happens on every other system out there. It's just a lot of that value isn't going to the token or the holders of the token. It's going to the market makers and the LP providers, pretty much. But yeah, as ETH grows, PLS will naturally grow too, not as much as people think. Where I think a lot of the value comes from mostly is as ETH is going up, think about how large ETH is. And for ETH to do a 2x, how much value has to actually flow on chain to make that possible? Tons and tons of value. Well, then not all that value just sits in ETH, right? Some of it makes its way to alt tokens built on ETH, and some of it makes its way to sub blockchains like Base. Sometimes it routes its way to Solana if ETH is where it landed first. Sometimes it makes its way to PulseChain, right? And PulseChain is working on an X multiplier as well. If any of that value makes its way to PulseChain, it takes very, very little amount of value to make PulseChain go up. Like literally, I think it's $10 million makes PulseChain go up like 10x. So if you think about that, just in that little example, we just need value to start flowing on chain. And I believe PulseChain has enough product market fit and the design of it using the fundamentals of supply and demand. It has a very scarce supply and it has product market fit. Naturally, I think the price will just start to rise when ETH starts to go up. Not because ETH is necessarily going up and dragging it up, but that means value is flowing back into risk on assets. And that's the main indicator that we need as far as PulseChain and pTGC needs as well.
Yeah, so I've got another little spin on it that I'll throw in there, and maybe it corresponded a little bit to the question. When we forked Ethereum, the supply of Ethereum was about 121 million Ethereum or something like that. And when Richard System State forked the chain, for each Ethereum, he multiplied each Ethereum by 1 million. So each ETH created 1 million pulse, essentially. So that was the ratio in supply between Ethereum and PulseChain, right? 1 to 1 million. So if you take that ratio, that ETH to Pulse supply ratio, at the current numbers, if you calculate if you calculate using current numbers, what it would take to balance the supply to ratio to price, the price of Pulse would need to actually go to 0.00358 at the current ETH price. So you're looking at, which is almost a 12,000% gain for about 120x from here. What that would do is actually equalize the fact that for each ETH, he turned into 1 million Pulse. So it would actually equalize the ratios, and the market caps would balance out in that way. But if you take the price of ETH and you say, okay, maybe ETH goes to around 12,000 this cycle, right? You'd actually be looking at, if you took the price of Pulse from the bottom, which would be 4 zeros and a 1 7, you'd actually be taking the price of Pulse up to 1 cent, which would be a 588x from the bottom of PulseChain if ETH gets to 12,000 in order to balance the ratio to price to supply. So that's a very interesting thing. I've seen some people talking about that. And so what that would do with that would actually, if you take it from the 3 zeros and a 1 SAC rate to 1 cent, that's 100x the first cycle of PulseChain. If you start it from the 3 zeros and a 1, if you start it from the bottom, it's a 588x. Which, the thing that's interesting about thinking about that is that's a very real, like, L1s in their first cycle on average do around that. It can be higher or lower, but you've all seen that graphic where L1s the first cycle does on average a 400 or 646x.
Mm-hmm.
If the theory was, this is just a theory, but if the theory was rebalancing the ratio to price to supply, that's where the price would have to be. It would have to be at a $12,000 ETH. It would have to be a 1 cent Pulse, which would be a 588x from the bottom, which would be 4017. Just if you want to geek out a little bit. I think it's pretty cool to think about that. Kind of a realistic target then, like, let's rebalance the ratios this first cycle, get a 588x in the first cycle from the bottom, keep moving forward.
Yeah, I think it also is a good, like, it would then create an even market cap between Ethereum and PulseChain, right? Because if that ratio is even, that means the supply to price number is your market cap, and PulseChain would technically have an even market cap to Ethereum. And in my opinion, that would be something Richard would really lean on as far as, in quotes, his chain being a success. And I think that would qualify it as a success as well.
Without question.
Rolando thinks the people in PTDC are pretty intelligent. He says PTDC has to be the highest IQ community. Y'all magical mathematicians. No, we just use ChatGPT, Rolando.
You got to know what to plug into the chat, man.
You got to be a magical prompter. We are coming up on the bottom of the hour, Zen.
Yeah, all I had was an hour today, Mando. I don't think you heard that at the beginning of the space.
It's all good, man.
Yeah,
it's all good. I did want to put out there again, I'm doing another round of taking personal calls this week, just because I just think that I'm getting a lot of DMs. So if you have the need to talk to somebody that's qualified, that's trusted, and that's competent, I am taking personal phone calls over X. So you can just DM me. You know, there's the phone app right through X, and I'd be more than happy to have a one-on-one, because we know that a lot of people don't like to come up and actually speak. So feel free to DM me if you'd like to have a phone call, and I'd be more than happy to help you if you have any questions.
That's a generous offer, ladies and gentlemen. Just saying, that's very generous, and I wouldn't hesitate to take him up on it, because I know you mean that, Mando.
No, not only do I mean it, I've been doing it for the last 2 months, and
Yep,
it's very helpful for people.
absolutely. Only Crypto says I would recommend talking to Mando. All right. Are there any last minute questions or comments?
Yeah, I was just going to add that I feel like very few people understand the system as much in depth as Mando does. He's been here the entire time. He studies the system every single day, watches it like a hawk. He's a great source to go to if you have any specific questions, especially if you want to get those questions from someone who has been around multi-cycle, who isn't the founder. You know what I mean? It's sometimes I feel like when people ask me the questions, I'm like telling you my kid's good looking or something like that, but hearing it from someone who has been around multi-cycle, who isn't the founder, is sometimes really awesome too.
Yep. That's a good point.
Well, the bottom line is that, Zen, you know that we've talked to a lot of people, and as much as we've done this for the last 22 months, we keep finding that people just don't understand what it is. And
barely any people understand it. Even people who have owned the token, everything. I'm actually finding out more and more every single day that no one even knows what's about to happen.
Like, for example, Trevor's in here, my boy Trevor. And we actually really kind of met and really sparked a friendship through pTGC, even though we were kind of peers, kind of going back and forth a little bit before. And just the time that I got that he gave me to spend with him really just changed everything for him. And now, you know, he's doing great. He took a position at a perfect time, and he's been able to now share it with a lot of different people. So it's not just about me or Zen connecting with you. If you don't feel competent and qualified yet to share pTGC, the goal isn't just to get you in. That's not the goal. The goal is to educate you so that, A, you can make a competent decision for your family as to whether or not you think that this amazing protocol and ecosystem is valuable enough for you to put some capital into it. But it's also very important for you to be able to articulate it to other people when you want to go share it with your friends, with your family, with your peers. You shouldn't have to pass the baton off to somebody you don't know. You should know that you've been educated enough to be able to articulate it in a way where people that you love and that trust you are getting the proper information. That's really my goal. I'm an educator at heart. And that's the whole point of those conversations. And I can tell you that everybody that I get off the phone with, they leave feeling much more armed and much more at ease with what this is. So that's the heart behind those conversations. So again, take me down. Feel free to DM me, and we'll take it from there.
All right, Zen.
Yeah, thanks for coming in, guys. Blackthorn, I think you dropped out, but thank you for coming in and adding to the conversation. Everyone who wrote in the chat with Banana, thank you for asking your questions there as well. Mando, thanks for speaking, and Banana, thanks for co-hosting.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure.
See you guys.
Hi, guys.
See ya. Hey, guys, if you got any questions, drop them in the chat, because I can hang out for a minute. If you guys got a question, just drop it in. I'll give you guys like a minute, maybe a little more. Obviously, Zen had family to be with. Doesn't that sound like fun? I did too, but my family's actually on the road. They're coming home. They went shopping. Like Walmart from me. You want to know how, the closest Walmart is an hour away. It's an hour away. But they actually went a little further to get some better shopping. So they're coming back. And they'll be home in just a little while. So I'll be home to catch them. I'm not at home right now. I'm in my office. Hey, good activity. Rolando in the chat. You can come in my chat anytime. Very positive, very chatty. Only crypto. I think, weren't you onboarded by Mando? There's somebody with like crypto only or crypto plus or something like that was onboarded by Mando about, I want to say maybe 6 weeks ago. Yeah, Mando, like when I came into the Grays, while you guys are maybe typing a question, I got in the voice chat and Pete talked to me for 20, 30 minutes probably when I was brand new. And I was like, oh yeah, now I might not understand what I hold, but what I just heard has got me so excited. You were? Okay, cool. You were also a brown conservative? So both of you guys were onboarded by Mando? I mean, that's what I'm picking up from you guys. He's he's crushing it. He really is. I love it. Because I mean, Mando is solid. You know what I mean? He knows crypto, PulseChain. Oh, Charlie and Miguel. Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, we were best chat ever. We were on, like Zen and I were on Charlie's stream maybe 6 months ago, 7 months ago. Oh, for an hour and a half. Yeah, I can imagine. He is a talker, but he he knows what to say. He could sell water to a whale too. You know what I mean? He could sell a freezer to an Eskimo. But doesn't he tell the truth? You know what I mean? Cultivate crypto, dollar cost crypto. Yeah, I'd like to get Zen on with both of those guys. You know, so if you have an in there, Brown conservative, you know, that'd be cool, Brown. You know, because we like to be on their show. And only crypto, you sold everything for pTGC. I've sold I made so many mistakes last year trying this and trying that, and I should have been going all in on pTGC. I still got a great position, and then at the end of last year, I like consolidated a little bit, and then just a couple weeks ago, I just consolidated a little bit more. It's just like you just learn over time, right? And you saw that beautiful chart, and you were in. I didn't even understand the chart, and I was in. Not the RH course. I did. I left the moon bag though, because if you look at the chart against pTGC, look at the performance of pTGC in terms of hex, PulseX, all that. I'm not giving you financial advice. I don't want to do that. I don't want to mess anything up. Jerry? I don't understand what you mean by Jerry. Thank you, Crypto Dave, for reposting this stream. How about getting K4 Crypto on an interview? You know he's in, right? K4K Crypto, he got in bigly last summer. He even sold his house and bought pTGC. It was all over Twitter, and he caught a lot of flack for that. But he's in, and I have talked to him about perhaps like an interview, but he's not interested. It's been my best performing asset in the Pulse ecosystem, Brown. You ain't the only one. You ain't the only one. Everybody that's been in it, it's their best performer, hands down. Like, yeah, unless you got into something like really early. I don't know what else you could have gotten in like a little late that have outperformed the Grays. There has been some stuff that you got in early. You know, you could sold the top, like maybe some Finvesta stuff. I know a lot of people that crushed it there and brought it over into the Grays. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the Grays are making a lot of millionaires. I have a friend, that they were a millionaire. They might still be in PTGC. They might be like really close if they're not already. But yeah, they're going to be like mega millionaires. Oh, your name is Jerry. Got it. What's the average PTDC multiplier versus Pulse? Average PTDC. Good question. Ricky Reyes Fitness Project. That's fun to say. What's the average PTDC multiplier versus Pulse? What I mean is for every 2x in PulseChain, okay, that right there, I'm not picking on you, but I think right there we got to stop because PulseChain hasn't really done a 2x. Okay, it has. Okay, it has. I'm picking on it a little bit. It's gone down pretty much his whole life. Okay, but here's a standard thing. We know this like last year from January to March, not this year, last year. PulseChain, this is famous. You probably heard this. PulseChain went up 4x. PTDC went up 42x. Okay, that's how it worked. What's the average x? Okay, what I mean is for every 2x in PulseChain, what's the average x on PTDC? Do you guys want to get the calculator out and do a little calculating, moon math? Because Ricky Reyes, maybe that could help you with that. What's the average PTDC? Let's look at Deck Screener. Okay, I'm going to show you something. I'm going to pull up PTDC. Watch this, because I was just doing this. And don't be afraid, guys, to make more comments and give me some clarification. You're not going to embarrass me. I mean, we're good here. I'm in a safe place. Nobody can touch me. I'm just kidding. I'm totally just joking around because I'm filling in the silence. I'm like standing in my office. There's no noise except for cars going by and you guys typing, and I can't even hear it. Okay, so let's pull this down a little bit. If you take a measurement from here to last July, we are up 95%. Let me do that in reverse. I mean, I want to do it the right way. We're up. Oh, I'm sorry. I got to be in WPLS. I'm trying to get the number of X's that we've done against Pulse. Yeah, I should be able to do it in reverse, and that makes it easier to do this measurement. Okay, so end of July, right here. Let's go to actually the 22nd. I'm just going to go right in the middle there. So 90, we are up. Let me try it. Let me try it in reverse. Let me just see, because I just did a little while ago. Boom. There we go. You got to do it in the other direction. So we're up 30x against Pulse. All right, now let's take this over to the Moon Math Calculator. And maybe Ricky Reyes Fitness Project, maybe this will help you. Just check this out. Maybe this will help answer some of your questions, because I'm not able to answer your questions, so I want to give you something. So PTDC versus Pulse. We know that we're 30x up against PulseChain in the last year. And PulseChain is going to do a certain number of X's. And you take those X's of PulseChain and the X's of PTDC, multiply them, and that's your X multiplier. Multiply that times the price, and that's going to get your price outcome, right? So let's say we can do 15x against PulseChain, and then PulseChain does 100x. And we're trying, by the way, guys, this is off topic a little bit. We're trying to make this site 100% free. I'm hoping that we can do that. It's kind of up to one person. And it might not even matter to him. It might not even be up to him in the end of it, if that makes any sense. But I want the whole thing, because right now you can see the dashboard and maybe the DApp, something like that. But the rest of it's all paid. If you want to pay $19.99 a month, just put in code PB15, and you can pay month to month. But we're trying to get it free. Okay, so 15x against Pulse. And 100x on Pulse would be at 81 cent PTDC or a 1,500% move. And I'm probably way off on your question, Ricky, but I hope that helps. Brown Jerry, I've been a financial advisor for 26 years and started to nudge a few of clients with a higher risk appetite into the ecosystem. Right on. Of saying this isn't financial advice. Yeah, this is not. But you know, if you like to speculate with a certain amount of your portfolio, you know, then yeah. And I mean, people in crypto are speculating for sure, right? Yeah, good deal, Jerry. What if Pulse only does a 20x and Pulse X does a 100x? Will it still outperform Pulse X? Woo! Well, I don't have Pulse X on the calculator. What if Pulse only does a 20x, Pulse X does a 100x? Will it still outperform Pulse X? Will pTGC outperform Pulse X? I do think so. Let's have a look. Let's have a look, guys. Watch this. Watch this, man. You're not going to believe this. Only crypto. Okay, this is what we're going to do. We're on the pTGC WPLS chart. We're going to find some other pairs. Right there, other pairs. We're going to find the pTGC PLSX pair. And I learned this trick when I came into, I'm going to put it in log. That's pretty standard. When I came into the ecosystem, flip the chart to PLSX. Maybe some of you guys already know all that, but I guess I was pretty green around the ears. Is that the way? Red around the ears? Whatever. When I came in. So here is pTGC versus PLSX for the lifetime. Let's go to the third week, the beginning of the third week, and take a measurement from there to current. pTGC is up against Pulse X 26,000%. Now, if Pulse only did a 220x and Pulse did a 100x, I imagine that, you know, the impact on that there would be an impact on pTGC versus Pulse X, if that makes any sense. But over the history of Pulse X, of pTGC, it's up, what is that, 260x against Pulse X? I have it on my slides. I hope that helps you, man. Does 100x will it still outperform Pulse? Yeah, I think I think it's pretty clear we're going to outperform Pulse X. But you know, with that caveat of Pulse in there, I'll leave it open to it not. The Ricky Reyes Fitness Project. Oh man, 81 cent pTGC. I'm a very happy man. That helped a lot. Good. Cool. Yeah, man. 81 cent pTGC, guys. We were on Spaces. It was 2 weeks ago today, Monday, 2 weeks ago today. You guys want to see something really crazy? Watch this. Watch this. And then we'll shut it down. Unless you got other questions, I'll keep going. I will keep going. Watch this, man. All right. Go to pampy.app. I did this on my stream yesterday. I'm going to refresh this just to make sure. Pampy.app. Go to try the price simulator. Do an even split. Well, you can do whatever you want, but I'm going to do an even split. So what this does is it simulates bringing the sacrifice funds onto the PulseChain. So let's say Richard Hart waits until Ethereum's like $5,000, and then he bridges it all over and even splits, injecting the sacrifice funds into all these all the four cores. Let's see what the impact on Pulse would be. Impact on Pulse would be a 10,000x. Now let's bring that number 10,311 over to the calculator, and let's say we can, like right now we're at a 25x. Let's say we can do a 10x. I got to get that number. Is it 3,511? Yeah, 10,311. 10,311. And then we're going to do a 10x against Pulse. So that's going to be 10 times 10,311. So that's going to be a 110,311. 10x. I got to make sure that's in there correctly. And that's got to be in there correctly. Okay, so 10x times 10,311x. How about them apples, guys? How about them apples? I mean, that's what's going through my head, guys, and why I am like, guys, if you can just get 1 million, just get 1 million. You know what I mean? Because if we go there, your bag is worth, you know what I mean? I almost don't want to say it out loud. It's so crazy. Is it me, or have I noticed a pattern of the cores initially running, and then those assets get rolled into the grays, and then the grays pump more on the back end? You know, that is a good question. You know, I had a question. I usually keep some notes for spaces, and I did not say anything, but we kept it really short today. But Jerry, that is a very interesting, you've noticed it. What made me love the pTGC? Oh, love. Okay. That is interesting, dude. You know, that's one of the things is that, you know, there will always be people holding cores. So, I mean, I don't even think it's a thing, but I think in terms of like worst case, I don't think everybody's going to come over from Hex and PulseX to pTGC. It's just not practical. It's not possible. We don't want it. Some people need to stay over there and enjoy their gains because they are going to make gains. But are people exiting cores to come into pTGC? Okay, let me write this down. Hold up, guys. I'll get to your questions here in a second. Like when Hex runs up, are we seeing people exit into pTGC? Because I want to ask this on the next spaces. So I'll ask your question. Unless you want to come, Jerry. Come ask that question. You know, but I'll ask it. That's a good one. What made me love pTGC is the aggressive buy and burn. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's aggressive. And then UFO burns pTGC. And there are other protocols out there also burning pTGC. They just don't got any volume. I'll tell you one thing that excites me about that buy and burn. And maybe it'll hit you the way it hit me. Like every single pTGC that gets sent to the burn address will never earn another reflection again. Those reflections in turn will go to you and I. That's how it works. Every single token. And we're sending millions of them. Let's look at the dashboard. Watch this. I hope I'm not keeping you guys. Notice that pattern happening repeatedly. You have seen that, have you? I think they may take a small portion of the PLS. Okay. All right. Watch this. We have sent. Well, you know, the volume has been pretty good today. That's interesting, Brown. Jerry. I'm going to bring that up. Like in the last 15 minutes, we've sent 4,000 pTGC to the burn address. In the last 24 hours. 32 million. Yeah, I'm seeing that right. 32 million. Dude, we started out with 333 billion. You know, 32 billion is a lot of 333 billion from my perspective. And then that's going on day after day. Now, UFO, which is not to be underrated or underestimated, has sent 37 million. Oh, and look at how much to the burn address. Look at how much pTGC UFO is burned. Let's see. Bought and burned pTGC in the last 24 hours, $1,000 worth, or however many. It's probably, 1.6 million tokens, something like that. All right, guys. Any last minute questions? Going once? Going twice? I appreciate the little chat we got to do. That was fun. Spaces was short tonight, so this channel is going to explode soon. Dude, I have noticed an uptick in my Twitter followers. Twitter followers. Really. Can't wait to see that. Been following you for quite some time. Really. I think you're the leading pTGC influencer. That's humbling. Like me. A dolphin position would be an awesome goal to get to. Yeah, there are people that got their dolphin positions and they're going to be very happy. You'll be a melting out of that. Multimillionaire. Sorry, spell check. Oh, that spell check can be really funny sometimes. Thank you, bro. Well, thank you, bro. Yeah, it's a love. I love the ecosystem. I love the founder. Okay, like he's my bud, and I'm very thankful to be here. I'm very, very thankful to be here. Yeah. All right, guys, let's shut it down. It's been so fun to chat with you too, and you other guys, if you're still hanging around. So voice chat tomorrow, and that'll be in the Telegram. Okay. So jump in the Telegram. You can talk to Zen, the founder. That'll be, I think that's tomorrow afternoon at like 3 p.m. Pacific. And then I will do a presentation on the grays on Wednesday. And then Saturday, we'll jump in spaces again. And hopefully we pump some more. Thank you, Only Crypto. I appreciate you. All right, guys, let's check out. Have a good evening. Get some sleep. Get some rest because tomorrow we're going to hit again. See you guys. I appreciate every one of you.